information has been developed there. So thanks to them, and I hope they continue to do this kind of work. By the way, Josh, I saw an email this morning. Josh Sternfeld is around. He's from NEH. He's there. Okay, and he's available all day, right?
I'm here.
Yeah, so, if you have ideas, if you need information about NEH grants and so forth, he's really the man to talk to, and he can help you. I would also briefly thank the recipient of two internship programs that we have. One, innovation with AMIA, another one with the Self-Reliant School, because many of those students have been contributing to this kind of tool. It's not the work of one person, it's really a collaborative work. And finally, there's some test sites that would be involved in using it and sending comment. I don't know if Steve Wilson is around, but the License Center in Austin and others will contribute to this and to do and develop the best tools that we can hope for. So far, in a way, over the years, we have been putting out there a lot of things that we call tools. There are, most of them, except two, are printed, except three actually are printed publication, one dealing with acetate storage, another one dealing with color storage, calculator for dew point and life expectancy, e-climate group dealing with assessing the environment, survey diagnostic tool with the Illustrate. So all the things are part of basically the machine, but in a way they are a little bit disconnected if you don't get the right picture, and it's difficult to, where do I start if I am concerned with film? Because they deal also with other material. So this is a little bit what I was thinking when I thought about the missing link, is to grab this finding, this information, and put in a kind of container, a tool that will really be focusing on the preservation of film and be used there. So I said here on this slide, well, this is a one-stop shopping, but don't be afraid, it's free, okay? It's free. So there's two main goals here in this tool. When we talk about originally, it's educational purpose of the site, and learning about film, what it is, how it degrades, how to identify the film, what type of process you can expect, at least a major one. This is a big part of this educational component. The other part is we try to design a tool, a decision-making tool that will help to point you to the right direction. And really, what it's supposed to do is really help you to define what you really need, and better said, what the collection needs to be around for a long time. So why now? Well, I could say now is a good time because I'm thinking to retire, but no, that's it's partially a job, okay? I will still be around for a while. But it was really a time where dealing with film stability research for a long time, and what next, okay? When I talk here and I put on this slide where the film stability can reach an end point, there's always something else you can do. There's always some smaller scale studies. But I think, and I am convinced, that we know what we need to know to do the right thing for those collections. And that probably the priority now is to act. Because that is also the intention, to give guidance and to move in the right direction. So yes, there is a long history. Yes, librarians, archivists, they have been learning and informing us about decay. We have developed those tools that need to be consolidated in a way. But when you go to a conference like this one, and this is one of the, probably we talk the most about physical preservation, but our attention tend to go and look at scanning, digitization, access, and so forth. So I am not saying it's a distraction, but we look the other way around. But if we don't look back and think about the collection of the physical collection, the physical preservation of those materials, they probably will not be around when you will get to it and you want to scan, digital, and to make them seen again. So this is a little bit probably the most important point here. So the objective we had, focusing on film, developing really an unique tool. The education component, I already mentioned that. We don't want to just to put information or stay information. We want to put concise information that could really lead to, okay, this is what I need, this is what I need to do. I have those two alternatives in terms of storage option. Okay, I better off to choose that one. So this is to really facilitate those type of action. And we want to include all type of material, all type of film materials. That really will not, it will not concern only moving image material, but also still, X-ray, microfilm, because you know what? They are made of the same component. They use often the same plastic at different time, and they use the same image material at different time too. So there is a lot of commonalities there that is really, really important. So the endpoint of film research or film stability studies, we easily can come to, okay, there is three very important things. And I almost started here with the end of the story. There is no doubt that the more you understand about the material, the more you will be sensible and understand what you need to do for those collections. And there is a lot to learn, there is a lot of experience, and there is always new people who come into the field. So there needs to be a tool there when we are not around anymore, I would say. The other thing is the power of the storage environment. I keep saying, I keep repeating that it has multiple benefits, and this is really, really the most single important thing you can do. And I was talking yesterday about mass transfer, mass treatment for this collection. But this is what it is, and this is very fundamentally different as acting item by item and migrating them, for example. So, and finally, let's dream and let's think that we have the best storage you can think of. It's not finished, because you will still have to monitor, yes, the condition you have, but you probably have to monitor the condition of your material, because this will evolve at a different rate, of course, depending if you are putting your stuff in a freezer or if it is in a cooler environment, because this is the only thing you can do now. So here you have to keep looking, keep monitoring, and it can be once every 25 years. It can be every 5 years, depending on the condition, because the film basically also die, will not wait and continue to decay. So this is what I call really, we need to know about, we need to store, and we really need to monitor, to do the best for this collection. So over the, and this is elements that we really put into the web page. You will find a lot of things about deterioration and how to recognize and what it is, what it causes. You will find a way and guidance to do surveys of the collection, and it will accompany you and actually help you to analyze the data. It will help you to gauge and choose between various storage alternatives. What I mean by that, for example, I am better off by controlling the wall space in my storage area, or I am better off to control the microclimate. And depending on your situation, one may be more suitable, way more practical for you. So those things are really pretty important to take into account. So yes, there is a long story, and I started way back, and the film took multi-form, and as I said, because of multiple applications, there are still films, there are still plastic, and there are still images on plastic support, and the challenge is still there. So one thing you will find is that the evolution of the plastic change over time. But it doesn't change over time at the same speed, at the same rate, or at the same moment, depending on the application, because some application need very high, for example, dimensional stability. Let's say X-ray, or area of film. Some need to go through to be threaded through the projection machine, or go into a camera without destroying the camera if it gets stuck. That's why negative, color negative Shokusha film are still on triacetate, by the way. So what we put inside this, what it will show you is, based on this information, organize all those parameters to help you and to help the people who don't know anything about film to figure out, depending on what kind of film, when it was produced, what kind of plastic they have, which means what type of care they will have to apply to the collection. So this is the idea. So same thing for image material. There's a range of image materials that you can categorize, basically. Let's say you have silver or metal and you have dyes, and you can go a little bit better into it. You have chromogenic dye, and those are certainly what causes the most stability problem. So those things need to be understood. So the best tool for experiencing decay is look at a collection. And we don't store new material, nobody does, right? Except if you get some color print of polyester or something like that. So you develop an eye, you develop an understanding, and there's a particular component in the web that will really help you to understand that and to focus on what can be done with that. Most of the time, and this is the thing, when you see the thing, it's already too late. So here, instead of crying about all those damaged materials, we should change our thinking here. Every time you have one which is damaged, you can count on it. There is hundreds that are still in good shape. And that is what is a good reason. But you have to do something about it, because the damaged one, I would say the range of possibility to saving the content is shrinking technically, or you will take a lot, and you will take action by item action, and so forth. So you will not save the whole collection by any of those solutions that I put on the slide. Everything has to be really complementary. This is why that early on, there was a particular attention about what I call now the mass treatment. Take a look at what the environment can do. Actually, you can go, there is an article from Calhoun, who was actually the boss from Peter here. And 1960, you should, I think he was in the archivist or something like that. And there he talked about color film. And he said, well, color film was not meant to survive. They are not meant to be permanent. Color films, they knew that dye will be fading. And they even knew that actually cold could improve the stability of this material. So 10 years later, you have this, there is one article that you should read, it's this one. This is really an important article because for the first time, you have some data about color stability. You have some data about the benefit of cold storage. You have some data about how fast or slow film will calibrate to temperature. So there's a lot of, because the cold storage was recommended, and we have thinking about, okay, how do I deal if I need to put my film to protect it? And look at the word in the title. It's permanent value. I think this is one of the first time I saw that word. And this is it's really an important paper. And Peter, many of you know him. He was really, at that time he was working at Kodak. And then the guy liked to work. So when he retired after 38 years at Kodak, he decided, well, maybe I can help do something useful at IPI. So he came to IPI, and I think he worked with them for 25 years. I worked with him for 20 years. I learned a lot with him, and he stopped, he was almost 90, and yeah, I miss him. So what he did, he really used this kind of approach here. So there is a way where you can treat data that you collect through accelerated aging, and that you can use to really predict what will happen to the dyes in this particular case. So, and I show this, but I will show it again here. You know, if you keep the thing in your office, but don't expect more than a few decades on the material before significant dye fading. If you put in the cold, well, you can multiply basically in this particular, it's not frozen, just above freezing, but you can get 600 years out of a fresh printed color material. So we also look at different things. So this is very important, and this is part, you will find the expanded calculator that you can really experience yourself about the effect on dye stability. It's dangerous business to do stability study because Dusty was in the lab, and so everything you read about nitrate can burn, it can do when you do accelerated aging actually. But the main point is, the nitrate was like the black sheep, right? It was the thing that was decaying, and this is the thing you have to, how many times I still hear where we have to migrate those nitrate and then we will dispose them. We don't want to keep them. But in fact, when you look at the stability of nitrate, even so, the range of stability can be wide because probably the manufacturing process was not as controlled as it has been later. The point is that nitrate can last. And it can last hundreds of years, and actually all the main archives have nitrate in great condition. And you know what? They will last certainly as long as triacetate if you store them properly. So, so this is the type of data that you can rely on, and depending on the condition and the temperature here, I can't even read, but minus 10 Celsius here, let's say 20 Fahrenheit, you can hope for 500 years. So you can hope the same thing for dyes, you can go for the same thing for triacetate, and that's quick. This is the second time I use that slide. And he knows what he's talking about, really. And there's 40 years between those two pictures. So it's a pretty good thing. So for acetate, you have the same mechanic, and I don't want to talk about this. You get the point. And again, you will find calculators that will expand the type of prediction you can do. So the other thing, very important, is what we have been doing is to explore and try to quantify the effect of sub-freezing temperature. And there is always a thing, you know, can I stop the decay and nothing will change, okay? Because all those predictions, well, some people for a long time didn't believe them. And Arrhenius' prediction, they were talking about, okay, erroneous prediction, which, you know, it's not, but it's not true. And there is real data. So in this particular slide, you have two groups of material. It was originally the same material, and it was, I went a little bit fast, it was material was at this point in acidity, which is the point here. Acidity is telling you the condition of the film, the acetate. Before it goes slowly, degrades slowly, after you ramp it up. And you don't want to go there. So film were at the autocatalytic point there, they were put in a freezer and also kept in the lab at normal condition. So those, I lost them. So the acidity, look at that, is 20 times higher than what it was after 15 years. So now, I'm not talking about accelerated condition there. I'm talking about the real stuff. And what I am saying here is, you know, for sure, if you put your film, which is already degrading at sub-freezing temperature here, at least for 20 years, you will not see any change. And probably it's much more than that, but I have to live longer for this, right? To explain that. I'm thinking to retire, actually. But this is the way it really works. So I will not take you to all the things we looked at over the years, but we tried to look at every aspect that people put in front of us. What kind of role a closer can play in postponing the decay? Is contamination a big problem? Do an approach using adsorbent like molecular sieve is effective or not? It's worth the work or not? So all these aspects that are actually summarized in this slide, you will find information in the website, and you can compare and you can follow the guidance that is proposed, and I hope it makes sense. The other thing where we learn a lot is doing ourselves for customer surveys, because this is where the real thing is, really. And the diagnostic tool that we developed here, at the beginning, this diagnostic, it was 20 years ago, by the way, it was 95. At the beginning, it was with the phobia of contamination. And we said, okay, we have to test all those cans, and the cans were already deteriorating. We have to put in another room, you know. There's some places that I will mention. They have the vinegar room. They put all those, okay? And so this was an approach at the beginning, but by using and doing survey, very quickly you realize that knowing where, statistically, where your collection is close to the autocatalytic point. There is just a small portion which is there, or there is a big portion. It will lead you to look at the environment that you need to provide in relation really with what the collection needs, ultimately. And the more it's degraded, the more we will require a colder temperature to be. This is as simple as this. So it can lead you to determine what kind of condition you will need. So because the color change is really matching this graph here, Jim Wiley once he kind of suggests that every archivist should have a tattoo with this, with this graph there. So it can tell you basically when you have this tool and you use it, and I hope the website will really help you to do this, you can do your own prediction. You can see, okay, if I don't do anything, this portion of the collection where it will be in a poor condition, which is defined with this level 2 here, it becomes a high priority, maybe for scanning, for migration, for copying, in a few years, actually in 5 years if you have room temperature. So it can go pretty fast, but it can also go on for much longer if you slow the temperature. And so you start, you can set up your own goals there. I remember in working with the Danish Film Institute, their goal was to shoot for 500 years, for everything. And so they end up by, having storage at minus 15 Celsius, which is minus 15, is probably, it's not zero, but it's close.
Single digits.
Yeah, single digit in terms of Fahrenheit, so it's out there. And this is what they did, and this is how they really store, because they want those numbers that you have here on this wheel of the acetate, and that you will have an electronic form. You will go further in the assessment. It will be not only like here, 3 different humidity you can use and do those assessments. So after something like 30 years, I think the main thing are really fit in this particular slide there. Yes, chemical decay is quite a threat. It's an ongoing threat, and this is something we need to be addressed. It's a good idea to really understand where are the weak points in the material you are taking care of. And you really have to match the condition of the collections with the storage you will have to put them and the target you are setting. And that is really the thing. So there's only 3 words again, and I go back to the first slide here that you have to remember. I think, I don't know what to put there, 1, 2, 3 preservation matter there. And that will do it. And I am talking here only about the physical preservation of the materials. And I know there's also components that go into it. And especially addressing the already decaying material. But this is really very important if you want to keep those materials around. So the challenge here that I gave to Alex is to, in a way, transcribe and translate all this thinking and information and data and experience into a digital form that could be accessible anytime by you, and really develop kind of methodology and understanding. So at this point, I will invite Alex in here, and he will give you a tour about this application and give you some background, technical background.
Good morning.
We don't do live, right? We don't do live, right?
Not if I can help. So good morning to everyone. I wanted to thank you for coming out to listen to us today. It really warms my heart to see so many people interested in this. Didn't quite know what to expect coming here. This is my first conference. Want to give a special thank you to the NEH for believing in our vision, funding our vision. Without them, this wouldn't have been possible. It was quite an undertaking, and they believed in it, and that is the reason we are standing here today to present it to you. I also want to thank John Louis for trusting me with his vision. As you can guess, a lot of his time and a lot of his professional focus went into this effort, and it really shows when you kind of look at the tools that we've built. So as you can see, I'm here to talk about the technical background and give a brief introduction to the various components of the website. I hope that my actual presentation isn't as boring as the title is, but bear with me, it'll be worth it. Who am I? So I've been the software architect, which is a fancy term for someone who plans and develops most of the software for the organization. I've been with IPI since 2010. Before that, I worked in the financial industry for about 5 years. Working at IPI is much better than working in the financial industry, but as you can guess, it's not the most rewarding. But what it did give me is it gave me kind of a, when I was interviewing for IPI, when I decided to work for IPI, what I brought to the table was I had a lot of experience developing high-end applications, which I noticed in the industry, IPI's industry, were kind of lacking. It's not fair to you as professionals who I've come to know over my 5 years that you are left with subpar technical tools. It seems like before it would be you take what you get, and sometimes, you know, when the grant was up or the project was up, that was when the tools stopped being updated. So what I bring to IPI and to filmcare.org's development is the tool is highly available and also redundant. So if you give us your information, we're not going to lose it. It's not going to go away one day. It's not going to disappear. We work very hard to make sure that it stays where it is, it stays secure. We maintain high levels of encryptions for connections and your data. So you don't have to worry about it getting out there or anything of that nature. But we also tend to emphasize, we spend a lot of time, especially in this project, discussing and bringing about the ease of use and the educational value of the tool. Other tools that exist, other tools that have been developed for this particular industry, sometimes can leave the aesthetic behind and the ability to get more information out. We hopefully accomplish both. Also, we tend to use open source tools and technologies to better accomplish our goals within, you know, you make the most use of our funds. We'd like to spend more time on the actual content and less time spending money buying things that are already out there. A little bit of a kind of a background on our infrastructure at IPI. We are a department within the Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. They are very gracious to provide us with a lot of what I just told you about. They provide us with a lot of hardware and networks that give us this high availability and ease of use that we are presenting to you. It's all built on Linux, so free, mature, secure, and all data is backed up daily, weekly, monthly, and then archived by year. So, like I said, if you give us your information, you can rest assured that it will be with you for quite a while. That's why it's permanent, right? Filmcare.org development, a little history on this, began officially in 2013. At the latest release candidate, we have 80,000 lines of code, over 500 files. And we've combined a number of past resources that have been developed by John Louis, Peter Adelstein, et al. My mandatory logo slide. These are all the technologies we used. It's built on a platform of Linux, PHP, MySQL, Twitter Bootstrap. It's an easy-to-use tool for the preservation of film. To provide a, as John Louis said, one-stop shop, free shop for educational resources for professionals, and to make that interface and access to all of the above easy and appealing. The first thing we'll discuss is our educational resources. We had a number of educational resources that went into this, but the four main ones are the film-based identification tool, which allows users to identify what type of film bases they have if they're not sure. Film deterioration identification tool, which allows people to identify deterioration that might be affecting their film. The motion picture film process identification, to help you identify what type of film process obviously went into the creation of the film. And history and timeline of film. You kind of saw John Louis' slide that had a brief timeline. This one has, it's interactive, you can slide through it, you can see pictures of the various instances on the timeline, and you can see pictures of what happened at that time. The first tool is the film-based identification. Like I said, it's help you identify your film base if you don't know what it is. How they do that, the users will select their film type and answer some questions, and the film base will come up as a result, so you can seek specific advice for the preservation. As you can see here, or maybe can't see, basically you provide a few pieces of data, mostly the decade that you know your film is from, edge prints in some cases, results of a polarization test, and results of a light piping test if necessary. As you select your results, certain other choices are narrowed down because that would be an anachronism. There wouldn't be certain, edge prints at certain decades or things like that. And then the final product is it'll tell you whether your film base is nitrate, acetate or polyester. We have it for quite a bit of, I think we have 9 different types of film. What you see here is motion picture film, but we have X-rays, sheet film, and various others. A lot of work went into this by some of John Louis' student interns. One of them is actually sitting here today, Gloria. She was very helpful in putting all of this together. And it's a very useful tool for both professionals that need to, be sure, and for students that are learning how to identify film bases. The next tool is the film deterioration identification. This helps users understand what specific film deterioration looks like and what types of film it affects. The users use a visual guide with pictures, bases, and image risks and advice. What you see here is a anticollation instance of this. So it gives you advice on what the form of deterioration is and what causes it, and also what you can do once you have it, more or less. And it also has little checkboxes that tell you what base is at risk and which ones aren't. This was mostly thought of, this was designed by Shannon, who isn't here today. But she put a lot of time and work into this as well, and it's a very useful tool. The motion picture film process identification is the third tool. This is to help users understand motion picture film processes and how to identify them. This is another, again, visual process guide, very similar to the decay guide, and offers identification tips and process descriptions. So all of these resources are freely available. You don't even need to sign up for an account on filmcare.org to use them. They're freely available just by going to filmcare.org. And they provide a nice centralized location for all of this information that was previously split up amongst many print publications and websites for IPI. But now to the meat. The filmcare.org preservation application, this is what John Louis was talking about. This is the tool used to help you create strategies to preserve your film collections. Requires a free sign-up account, and information is provided to whoever would use it to store and compute the best actions to take. As I said, accounts are free. All it needs is an email address and an institution name. And you can sign up today at filmcare.org. The first thing you see when you log in is a little bit to help you get started. It's an introduction to the terminology we use on the website. We use terms like collection that might mean different things to you than they mean to us. We hope they don't, but just to kind of clear the air and kind of create a standard vocabulary. And it also gives you an introduction to the methodology that we'll be using on the website, and provides links to all of the educational resources that I just detailed. So the first step for this tool is to characterize your collection. Collection to us is kind of a vacuous term, as it, many different people, if you were to ask them what is a collection, they would tell you probably many different things. It can be as big as your entire film collection. It can be as minute as individual collections within your entire corpus of film. But what do you need to characterize your collection? You need to know what the storage conditions for that particular collection are, and what materials are stored within. And you also have to be able to provide a name for it. You've got to be able to tell them apart. So what you do is you just slide your condition sliders to what the average condition is within your collection or wherever it is stored. And then you just check off some materials that you have there and hit create. And once you've created all your collections with your various materials and conditions, you can run a quick preservation overview. What this will do is it'll take what materials you have stored and the temperature and relative humidity conditions that you have them stored in, and will let you know how you're doing for those materials in your collection. Looks like this. So as you can see, we have various materials within these collections, and we have various different storage environments, cold, frozen, and room temperature. And you get basically a grade on the temperature suitability and the humidity suitability. Best practice being the best, and acceptable meaning that you're doing good, but you could do better. And unacceptable means you probably need some help. All of these reports, especially this one starting off with, but there will be a few more coming up, are able to be saved as a PDF, so you can see how you're doing over time if you wanted to keep them for yourself. You can email them to colleagues and basically just share them. So once you have all of your current conditions, now comes the real interesting part, the magic, as John Wayne would call it. We offer recommendations based on IPI's research for how you can improve the storage conditions. And it's based off of your current conditions and materials that you did in step 1, along with the ideal conditions as according to our research. So what you'll see here is a really big kind of list, and you can expand each of these sections for your collections. But what it does is it provides advice on if you say you don't have a best practice or acceptable temperature environment. It provides advice on how to get there. Same for RH. And depending on your materials, provides advice to, let's say you have acetate. It will provide advice on how to do an acetate assessment using AD strips. It'll provide advice as to what kinds of decay to look out for using the visual decay guide. And it will also provide advice for a storage calculator so you can plan hypothetical environments and what that would mean versus your current environment. This is also PDF-able. You can press the button and it'll provide a report all expanded out for all of your locations, or all of your collections, I'm sorry. That will allow you to share it with colleagues, use it in meetings, and other helpful things like that. One of the big pieces of advice that comes out of the recommendations is the AD strip assessment. An AD strip survey, so for those of you who don't know what an AD strip is, which I'm sure all of you do, but just to review, you put these strips inside of your acetate film storage, and it provides a number based on a color from 0 to 3. 0 being the best, 3 being danger. And what you end up doing is you should be collecting all of these after you sample your entire portions of your collection, as we'll get into. And there's various analysis that can be run on it. Previously, you had to kind of maintain maybe a spreadsheet or write them down, prone to error, prone to tabulation errors and things like that. So what we try to do is create a friendly, familiar interface for entering in these results, storing them, and generating reports that you can share based on it. So all that's required is that you enter in the approximate size of your acetate collection, and the tool assumes a confidence level of 95% and a percent error from the readings of 3%. And it will ask you to enter in various pieces of information about your survey. The interface is a spreadsheet-style interface built into your browser, and it can accept, if you aren't too comfortable with doing that, or if you already have an existing Excel spreadsheet, it does accept copy-paste from Excel directly into the browser, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The 5 pieces of information that the AD strip survey requires is an ID. We left it vague. It can be a CAN number for acetate film. It could be a shelf identifier. Anything that can positively denote where that AD strip was. Location, this is kind of a higher level identification marker. Something like a room, a building, a section, a vault. The most important piece of information, the AD strip failure from 0 to 3. And then there's some ancillary information for the date of the film, how old it is, and the type of the film. Is it motion picture film, microfilm, sheet film, etc. This is kind of what it looks like here. So as you can see, you specify your collection size. You enter in all of the information on the spreadsheet, and saves for you on our servers. And when you fill it all the way in, you can generate a report. You can do multiple surveys for the same collection, so you can see how you do over time. And it's a very useful way to kind of centralize and share these results and these observations across your organization. So when you hit that generate survey report, you get a nice series of graphs that explain what the AD strip levels mean to your collection. And they give you prediction on future decay based on your current storage conditions. So what you get in the report is you get the image that should be tattooed on everyone's arm. You get a breakdown of your current AD strip values based on the AD strip color, actually. So the bluer the better, the more yellow, the danger. And you also get a numerical breakdown of how many samples within your collection are, level 0 to 1, 1.5 to 2, or I think 2 to 3, which are the danger ones. And the bottom graph is the number of your AD strip values that are currently 2 and above. And then based on your storage conditions and the number of years that we would predict that you have until fresh film turns into degraded film, it adds in the current 1.5 values into the 2 and 3 values. So you can effectively see, so all right, maybe 30% of my collection is currently 2 and above. Well, in 26 years, at the current conditions we have it stored in, maybe closer to 60% of my collection is going to be in trouble. So it kind of gives a good way to bring about the conversation of we need to do something different with our collection environment that we're currently keeping it in. Which flows right into the next tool. The storage calculators are used to estimate the effects of hypothetical temperature and RH conditions on your collection. They allow you to save a bunch of different values, and then it gives you the number of years you have left until your collection will hypothetically decay. And you can export this as a CSV, which is open and able to be opened in Excel or any various spreadsheet program for use and sharing. So much like other components on this, they use a slider to control temperature and humidity values, and they show the years remaining in output fields. Better to see them. So you can move these back and forth, and it will show you the number of years that you have until you reach specific AD strip levels. And what you can see over here is you can save various hypothetical temperatures in RH and compare them with the only one that can't be removed from the list, your current conditions, and what they mean. So it gives you a nice way to see, sort, and plan for future changes to your collection environment. And we also have a similar tool for color dye fade as well. Another particularly useful tool is days out of storage. These are reference tables that feed off of the storage calculator and allow you to approximate the temperature and RH effects if you take your collection out of the storage environment, so you can see how that affects the decay of the collection. It's available for fresh and degraded acetate previously, as well as the color dyes. So as you can see here, you get a big old table that shows you the temperature and RH values and what the years, time and years to degrade. And then basically what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to leave it out for a week or a month, and you can see how the various effects that would have on your collection. So helps you make the decision that maybe I won't keep it out for a month, maybe we should limit it to a week. The final two sections of the website are steps and lists to help you put your changes into action. If you don't have, say, a frozen storage or a cold storage, but you're interested in setting one up, it helps you to know what the different types of cold and frozen storage are, so that you can have more power in your decision making. and also provides a few other pieces of reference information that we've collected before making those decisions. And finally, the last section is the monitoring section. It allows you to, gives you advice and information on how to monitor your environment, perhaps more thoroughly than just 80 strip surveys. Gives some information on the preservation environment monitor. For Acetate, it explains when to do another survey. So you've done your first survey, you've done it successfully, you see the state of your collection. It gives advice on when to do that again, and how often you should be doing it. And gives you tips on how to adapt your strategies for preserving your collection over time. So just in summary, it's a free online resource. It's aimed at professionals, collection managers, interested parties, students. All levels of knowledge are welcome and invited. And we hope it will be a valuable tool for assisting professionals in film preservation strategy. And with that, I think I'm done.
We have a few minutes for questions. Yes.
First, I want to congratulate you. It looks amazing project, very important. I wanted to ask if you have in mind plans to maybe make it available also in other languages, or at least an introduction in other languages, maybe cooperate with FIAT or with the advocacy committee of AMIA.
Go ahead. Well, we don't have that, but that's happened for many of the publications, and we've been asked to translate them, particularly in Spanish, because there is a lack of this type of information there. But that could be certainly adapted. There's not too many words, I would say, right? Is there?
I'm far from, I speak computer language. Human language.
I don't know, I think we have to assess the need, if the people can adapt to the content or not. Maybe it can be maybe the introduction, as you mentioned, I think, in different language, and numbers are numbers, right? Colors are colors, so I think that's kind of a universal language, so it's worth to think about. We just finished this, so we are tired, right?
It's a question that we get a lot across a lot of our online resources, and we are starting to pursue it in other ones, and I would love nothing more than to pursue it for this one too. I think the international focus of collection preservation, especially in technology, is going to be huge. I mean, it's probably already huge. We just, the amount of commentary on it probably isn't as huge as the actual desire for that information. So, I created it in a way that it can be translated across languages. We just need the knowledge.
Yeah, George?
You'll be collecting a lot of information from different institutions, and on one side we have the security issue, the privacy of that data. But it seems to me that there's a good opportunity over time to develop a report on the state of film storage conditions, or baselining, of institutions of your size in the Pacific Northwest. They're all terrible, so you're no worse than anybody. Whatever.
Only in Sweden.
But
I got this, and when you think about what did the Library of Congress in the 90s, where they audit and interview a lot of people to really define the state of preservation of film collection, here was a kind of tedious process based on what the people were saying, and the data, as you were, there is not too much data there about the state of preservation. So if the people agree to, that is a powerful thing because they will be there, and you can even imagine doing this with the e-climate notebook information, where we really literally store how many subscribers?
E-climate notebook has, combined with free accounts and paid accounts, about 1,000 subscribers.
So there is 1,000 institutions across the country and some outside the country, right? Because
Correct.
it's international. And all this data, which means the type of environment they keep the collection, are there, basically, in the server. Again, here, it could be a fantastic picture of the state of storage, you know, across almost the planet, right?
But are you actually collecting that now?
Yes.
We have used some, seeing that when I was building eClimate Notebook and this website, we do have data analysis capabilities to anonymously, in a way, analyze data. We deal a lot with government bodies, of course, not just domestic. And a big concern for them is that we've gone through a lot of concern and pain, frankly, to make sure that our data is stored securely, but in a way that we can, we use it ourselves to kind of direct where our focus falls and what people are interested in. And exactly like you said, if we can use this tool to kind of see that, you know, oh, in the Pacific Northwest, everyone's doing bad. Like, is that a place we should be focusing our efforts? Is that a place that we should, you know, it helps to have that kind of experiential and evidentiary kind of data to back up where we go to provide help services and such, because we're a small institution, so we kind of fight our battles as we pick the biggest battle and fight it. So it's been, eClimate Notebook's been invaluable in that particular assessment, and I'm hoping that filmcare.org will be as well. Yes.
I had a question about your calculator. I have some that I know has not been in storage for a period of time, and it has been in storage, and I'm not going to take it out. Would you still figure that time into the calculator?
Well, no, you couldn't. But how long it has been out of storage? Because you can, you know, at some point you can do some guesses. You know, if you talk about material were produced in the 50s and 60s and not stored in cold storages or cold or frozen, where you can guess that a large portion of that collection is about maybe strip 1.5, because this is what real life and prediction told us. So here you are. So you can use a calculator and look at the line degraded film, and see now they are in this new storage, and you can plug those data, and then you can determine how many years it will take to go from this onset of the vinegar syndrome to a poor condition that really you are close to losing the stuff. So you can use it that way. The degraded part of the calculator, it was really minimum in the storage guide for acetate. You know, it was just a few data points just to give the idea. I think here in the calculator, it's really expanded, and it gives you a better picture and better data with that. But yeah, it's a good thing to say, you know, 50 years with no special storage is probably almost there as you took at the point of decay. So that's the start point. And you know, the fresh, okay, this is the other thing I can tell. The fresh film part of the calculator, it gives you an index of quality of your storage. But in any way, because you don't store fresh film, right? In any way, it gives you a useful assessment of how long your collection will last. You have to use a degraded one. But it's an index of quality, and the higher the number, the better it is.
And thank you for all the tools.
Before we take the next question, I just want to say it's probably about the time that if you want to make an 11 o'clock session, that would be the time to do it.
10:50.
All PowerPoints will be available on imagepermanence.org. Need it sooner, take my card, email. Thank you.